Hey everyone, I am super excited to be back with you. Today we will be going over infection control and why it's important. I'm gonna read off some things that we're gonna go over today. Feel free to pause the video if you need to as we're going along, and I would really ask you guys to take notes. There are some really important information that we will go over. You will see me looking down. I am reading from notes, so just feel free to take notes as well, because that is how you learn, writing things down. All right, so we're gonna go over what you should know by the end of this video. So we are gonna go over explaining infection control, what that actually means. We are gonna be able to describe the federal and state regulation agencies in our areas. We will recognize the principles of infection. We will be able to identify different types of pathogens. Really important stuff, you guys. Employ the principles of prevention. How can we prevent these things? Follow standard precautions to protect yourself and your clients, one of the most important. And demonstrate safe work practices and safety precautions. So those are the things that you should know by the end of this video. So let's get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and start with infection control and why it's important. So State Board is a company that will come in to any salon or beauty industry to make sure that our salon is being ran properly and cleanliness is at the top of their list of things that they are looking for. One of the main things that when they're coming in is their hair, is it cluttered? But there's so many infections that can be cross-contaminated from client to client. So you wanna make sure that things are super clean. So State Board has regulations that we must follow as beauty professionals to make sure that our shops are clean. You can compare this to how a food place might have, someone that's coming in to inspect their place to make sure it's safe. And if it's not safe, they can close you down. As beauty professionals, individually and as salon owners, it is our job to make sure that things are clean and properly taken care of. So let's go over some vocabulary. Before we start anything, it is important that we know the difference in these few words. All right, so the first one here for infection control vocabulary. Cleaning. Cleaning is the mechanical process using soap and water or detergent and water to remove all visible dirt, debris, and many disease-causing germs. Cleaning also removes invisible debris that interferes with disinfection. Next on our list is sanitation, right? Sanitizing. Sanitizing is a chemical process for reducing the number of disease-causing germs on cleaned surfaces to a safe level, right? Infection control professionals consider sanitation to be a layperson's term or a product marketing term, as hand sanitizing is, right? Preferring cleaning to describe the step before disinfecting. Disinfecting is our next one. So disinfecting is a chemical process for use with non-porous items that use specific products to destroy harmful organisms, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi, on implements and environmental surfaces. Sound good? Our next one is sterilizing. Sterilizing is the process that destroys all microbial life, including spores, generally with the use of an autoclave. All right, so we see there is a difference between cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting, and sterilizing, right? In the salon, when we are talking about washing something like a comb and a clip, things like that we use on a common basis, we will be using things and we will be, for sure, cleaning. We are going in with a soap and water, and we are washing that down really, really well, cleaning it. And then we are disinfecting. Sanitizing, like they said, sanitizing is a marketed word that they created similar to hand sanitizing, right? But disinfecting is killing majority of those things that can be crawling all over your tools that you just don't know and can't see. So we go in with soap and water to clean our tool, and then we go in with a disinfectant. And we'll talk about what that disinfectant is in a little bit. All right, on to our next thing, which is describe federal and state regulation agencies. One of the main ones that a lot of us have heard of before is OSHA. So OSHA is the short word of saying it, but the long word is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. They are really, really important, you guys. So they are the ones who enforce safety and health standards to protect employees in the workplace. OSHA not only works with salons, but it works with just about everywhere. So they're an important category and something that you should look into. The best thing to do, if you're ever wondering if that something is okay in your work area and your workspace, you're going to want to go on their website. Next up is EPA, which is Environmental Protective Agency. They register all types of disinfectants sold and used in the United States. So look at the back of your cleaning products and see if you see their name on them. Kind of cool, right? Okay, so the last two that we just talked about were OSHA and EPA, right? Those are federal agencies, right? Well, let's talk about state regulated agencies. I'm going to read something to you guys that is very important. All right, so state regulated agencies exist to protect beauty professionals and their customers' health and safety during services. State regulated agencies, including licensing agencies, state boards, commissions, and health departments. Regulatory agencies require that everyone working with clients in a salon, spa, or barbershop follow specific procedures. Enforcement of the rules through inspections and investigations on consumer complaints is also a part of an agency's responsibility, right? So we're seeing that with this information that there is a difference between a state regulated agency and a federal. Federal has laws that we must follow, whereas state has rules that we must follow, right? And the rules are things like state board that comes into your salon and will look around, and if a client were to say, hey, I came to this salon, this, and this happened, I think you should check out the shop, that's when they would come in and they would see if everything's up to par, right? So let's read on. An agency can issue penalties against both owners and beauty professionals. That's serious, you guys. So one thing that I want you guys to know, if someone were to walk into my salon or someone else's salon, as the owner of the salon, if one of my stylists had something that wasn't properly taken care of, the owner and that beauty professional can get fined and licenses can be taken. So take this very, very serious, all right? Your professional reputation, your license, and your client safety depend on your cleanliness, right? So let's talk about the difference between a law and a rule. So laws are written by both federal and state legislators to determine the scope of practices, what each license allows the holder to do, and establish guidelines for regulating agencies to make rules. Laws also are called statutes. All right. Law or rules. Let's talk about what a rule is. Rules and regulations are more specific than laws, right? The regulatory agency or the state board writes the rules and determines how the law must be applied. Rules establish specific standards of conduct and can be changed and updated frequently. It is the beauty professional's responsibility to be aware of any changes to the rules and regulations and to comply with them. Ignorance of the law is not an acceptable reason or excuse for non-compliance. So saying, I didn't know I had to clean my combs or clips does not excuse you from the penalty. So this is why we're in this class today. We will learn all the things that we need to know to make sure that we are following the rules and regulations. Okay, moving on, we will be talking about the difference between what types of infections are crossed between people, right? So think about when you get sick. When you get sick, you might have gotten it from touching someone or they coughed, things like that. So let's talk about the difference. So there's something called a direct transmission and there's something called an indirect transmission. So let's read what a direct transmission means. Direct transmission is what we most commonly think of in terms of getting sick, as it involves the transmission of pathogens through touching, kissing, coughing, sneezing, and talking. For example, if you shake hands with every customer and one of them has a cold virus, it can be transmitted to you and possibly making you sick if you touch your mouth or nose afterward. If you fail to wash your hands after each handshake, then you risk infecting other customers as well as yourself. So that is a direct transmission by being touched, or the disease or whatever it was came straight to you, right? So let's talk about what an indirect transmission is. Indirect transmission occurs through contact with an intermediate contaminated object, such as a razor, nippers, clippers, or environmental surfaces where the pathogen sits there. Doorknobs, phones, food preparation surfaces, or your own implements at work. So these are the things we're talking about. Our combs, our brushes, things that you wouldn't expect it to get transferred, but it will. One of the number one things that you never want to do as a professional is take a comb that you used on your last client and use it on the next one. And not only does your comb need to be cleaned, right? Let's talk about what cleaning is. That is soap and water, or detergent and water, but disinfecting. We want to always be disinfecting our tools as well. This is so important. It is so many diseases that can be passed from person to person. Okay, so let's talk about how diseases work, how pathogens happen in the first place, right? So when a disease is capable of being spread from one person to another, it is called a contagious disease. And a lot of us have heard of this before. That's when it's able to be passed. But not everything can be passed. So let's talk about that. We're gonna go over some different definitions, so a little bit more vocabulary. Feel free to pause and write out everything I'm saying, but go ahead and put it in your own words to make it a little bit easier. So let's talk about the first term. That is contamination. So that's the presence or the reasonable anticipated presence of blood or other infectious materials on an item's surface, or visible debris or residue such as dust, hair, and skin. That's how things get contaminated. That is what it is. It's the presence of maybe something being there. See what I'm saying? Next, right? Decontamination. That's the removal of blood or anything other than that might be in the air or on that surface or visible in the debris or in the dust or the hair. So things are contaminated. Consider all of your combs and clips contaminated. You don't know. You can't see it. Everything, hair, everything. That's why you don't want hair in your drawer. You don't want hair anywhere. And everything needs to be decontaminated by a disinfectant, right? Moving on. What is a diagnosis? A diagnosis, determination of the nature of a disease from its simple diagnosis test, right? Federal regulations prohibit salon professionals from performing a diagnosis. So a salon cannot tell someone, hey, I for sure know that this is what you have. One of the main things that we can say that about is something like alopecia. We have a lot of clients that come in and it might look like alopecia, but if they have not been diagnosed by someone that is a dermatologist and is able to diagnose someone, then we cannot tell them that that's what it is. We can only tell them, I recommend that you go and get a diagnosis. All right, next is germs. So germs is a non-scientific symptom for disease-producing organisms. So, all right. Occupational disease, illnesses resulting from conditions from employment, such as prolonged or repeated exposure to certain products or ingredients. Occupational disease. So if you work in a salon and you're constantly touching certain things over and over, that can cause something. Like if I can compare this properly, I think I can. One thing that has happened to me over the years, and I recommend that you guys protect yourselves with gloves, is contact dermatitis. That is something that is very common in the salon environment. It's from touching clients' hair that might be not cleaned properly. I was an apprentice for a few years and I worked for a salon and I would wash hair all day. And at that salon, I got contact dermatitis from the feeling of it being on your hands. It makes you break out really bad. Recommend you wear gloves at all times. Or washing hair consistently can dry out your hands and cause issues. I'd say it is in sensitive skin majority of the time, but anyone can get contact dermatitis, so make sure you're wearing gloves. Occupational disease, right? There is also parasitic disease. That's a disease caused by a parasite, usually as like lice or mites, right? Parasitic disease. Now we're on pathogenic disease. Diseases produced by organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, or parasites. Last one is toxins. That is various poison substances produced by some microorganisms like bacteria or viruses. So we just went over a lot of really good things that we should know when it's coming to the relation of disease. All right, so I know that we all don't want to be here all day, so we are going to skip forward. I just want to go over with us the types of disinfectants, sorry about that. But before we do, I have a little thing that I do want to mention that is very important. It's washing your hands and taking care of your skin while you are working with chemical services, while you are doing hair in general, in any beauty industry. So washing your hands is very important. You should be washing your hands before, after your clients, after the bathroom, after touching disinfectant products. And washing is cleaning, right? So that's using a soap and a water. Then you're gonna wanna go in and disinfect. That is with a hand sanitizer, something like that. So something to think about. Also, after those two things, your hands can become very dry. You're gonna be washing your hands quite often. So you're gonna wanna go in with a nice lotion of your choice. All right, on to types of disinfectants. After this video, I would like for you guys to go into the next video with Sophia. She will be teaching how to run your quats system in the back room. So quats is one of your number one things in the beauty industry that you will be using to disinfect your tools, probably your main thing. So what that entails of is once you're done with your tools, right, you are going to take them in the back room or wherever you do your cleaning, and you will take soap and water, and you will clean out all the hair and clean off your tools. You're gonna scrub them down the way you would scrub your dishes down. And then you are going to rinse them really well. Make sure you are rinsing off all the soap. There's no hair or debris on whatever you're using, including no color, no nothing like that. And then you will have something called quats. Quats is a really important thing that you're gonna wanna be using. So it comes in a blue bottle. You can get it from majority of hair stores like Sally's. You can get it from the beauty supplies, and you can get it from Cosmoprof and Salon Centric, also on Amazon. You need this product for positive. So quats, you take a little bit of quats and a whole lot of water, depending on your case of however you're keeping it in, and you actually are gonna take your clips and your combs, and after you've cleaned them, and you're gonna put them in this quats for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, all of the things that we can't see, right? Diseases, pathogens, bacteria is going to be killed off of those, and it is disinfecting your tools. You should never use a comb or clip that hasn't been in quats before or isn't going through quats. Using soap and water is not enough to clean your clips and combs. So the video after this, you will see her go through and she will show you how we do it at our salon and how we keep our area nice and clean and how we use our quats. Another thing about quats, once you have taken it out of the quats, you are going to rinse it off with water. You do not want to dip your hands in the quats, right? You don't want quats on, you don't want the blue stuff on your combs and clips when you take them out of there either. It's very dangerous to touch hair, to touch hands, anything. Like I said, if it's killing pathogens in 10 minutes, imagine what it's doing to your skin after you touch it so consistently, or your client's hair because you didn't rinse your comb off. So make sure when you take them out of there, we like to use a tong, and you'll see what we like to use. Use those, take them out, rinse with water, and you can place it to dry, not all on top of each other. You want to spread it out neatly, and you'll see us do that as well. But yeah, quats is a number one important thing that you're going to want to use. Also, you're going to make sure that if you see any debris or things floating in it after a few days, or maybe after day one, you are going to dump the whole thing and you will reset. The quats you use in big salons, you might use it very quickly. In a small salon, it's just a light color blue that you're going for. So you're just gonna pour a certain amount in there depending on what it tells you on the back of the bottle. So you won't run out of it too quickly, but you're always gonna wanna replace it if you see hair, anything like that in there. So you're gonna make sure that you're replacing it quite often. And you're making sure that you don't have any hair or gel, anything like that in the quads on the combs in the first place. All right, last but not least, I just want to go over what our professional responsibilities are as professionals. Even if you are a stylist from home, you are doing anything that has to do with clients, this is our responsibility, and it's something that we should take super serious. All right, so after studying everything that we've gone over today, these are the standards of what we need to remember. So, never take shortcuts in disinfecting and cleaning. You cannot afford to skip steps in order to save time or money when it comes to safety. It is your professional and legal responsibility to follow state and federal laws and rules. Keep your license current and notify the licensing agency if you move or change your name. Check your state website monthly for any changes or updates to the rules and regulations. Be aware of your environment so that you can identify and eliminate potential hazards that make your salon, spa, barbershop safer for you and your clients. Be aware and be prepared for emergencies. Every salon, spa, and barbershop should have employee and clientele emergency information available. Very important, you guys. An emergency phone number checklist should include the contact numbers for the fire, police, poison control, and medical rescue departments, and the nearest hospital, emergency rooms, and taxis. Really important. Utility service companies such as electrical, water, heat, air conditioning, and landlords, or everybody that can help in an emergency if something breaks down in the shop should be listed as well. Update this information on an annual basis so you are always prepared. Realize that behavior that stems from knowledge and in a caring manner is what separates a true professional from a non-professional. Being a professional is something you should take pride in. All right, you guys, we have gone over so much amazing information today. I just want to congratulate you for finishing the video. Because of this video, now you know a lot more information on how to take care of your station, your salon, or your own space that you're doing. always think about infection control. It is a very important step in being a beauty professional, and it's something that we should all take very serious. So congratulations. Thank you so much for watching. Our next video that I'd like you guys to watch is going to be about how Sophia goes over how to actually clean and disinfect our tools. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.